I'm William Kumwembe with Business Time, a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines. And in the program today, we look at how consumer spending behavior has been affected months after the kwacha devaluation, coupled with persistent inflationary pressure. Also in the program, we get to the Kapchorwa hydropower plant, where construction of a temporary intake dam has commenced 8 months after it was washed away. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome. In May this year, the Reserve Bank of Malawi announced a 25% devaluation of the local currency, the kwacha, in what was described by commentators as a desperate attempt to address prevailing mismatches between forex demand and supply. The option, coupled with prevailing inflationary pressures, has pushed up most commodity prices, eroding the already volatile buying power. Most consumers whose earnings have been static are grappling to make ends meet. This spells doom even for traders whose sales volumes have lowered, while operating costs are on an upward spiral, as our journalist in Mzuzu, Patience Lunda, explains in this report.
I am at Mzuzu main market. It is the end of the month, but the presence of people is relatively lower than the norm. Consumers are adjusting their spending appetite as the buying power dwindles while the cost of living remains elevated. I speak to Limbani Vimba, who shares his story of how his life has changed in the past months since the Malawi kwacha was devalued in May.
Before devaluation, life was just good. Things were at least stable, business was moving, even at work, things were just good. After this coming of this devaluation, life has been so bad due to things are very expensive. We talk of transport where we live from far distances. Transport is expensive. From here to come to work is 2,000, to and from. Lunch is 2,000, but the salary is just the same.
The squeezed spending appetite by the consumers is having a bearing on businesses. Most business people have a common narrative: sales have lowered while operating costs increase. Mpaso Majaha sells second-hand kitchenware and banana fritters at Mzuzu main market.
Some of the items which we sell come from outside Malawi. Since the devaluation, we have had a big impact, more especially on the imports. Like the goods we are selling, as you can see, the goods we are selling, we buy from outside Malawi. The goods I'm selling in the other shop, they are coming from different countries, like South Africa, China, and the other countries. For example, these ones you are seeing here, they come from the USA. There have been changes in the foreign currency rates, and the prices we have been buying in the past have almost doubled or else gone 3 times higher than the original prices we used to buy. As a result, the prices we are putting here are having an impact even to consumers, because the turnover of the business has slowed down. Consumers cannot buy, cannot spend as they used to spend.
In May this year, the Reserve Bank of Malawi announced a 25% devaluation of the kwacha in an attempt to, among others, contain appetite for imports and address forex demand and supply mismatches. The devaluation was effected as the government launched talks with the International Monetary Fund for a possible fresh extended credit facility program.
It's drastic, but it has come at a time when we should have taken it. As you know, William, a lot of trade has been happening outside the formal sector. The banks and others basically trying to beat the system either by going through a third currency such as the euro and the like. That is all in an attempt to send a message that the exchange rate is not right. We have now come in to correct that exchange rate, and we expect, therefore, that black cat will now come out in the open and we'll see it.
The kwacha devaluation, coupled with inflationary pressure, has pushed prices of almost everything upwards. Experts suggest that the government needs to find lasting solutions while cushioning the people in the interim. For some time now, Malawi has seen its foreign currency reserves shrink sharply. According to the central bank, this has been necessitated by the COVID pandemic and a rise in cost of imports, particularly raw materials, due to the war in Ukraine. To make matters worse, the country was also hit by 2 devastating cyclones this year. As to what the future holds, only the future can tell.
Now, it has been about 8 months since the Kapijira Dam's hydropower plant intake dam was washed away following the flooding of the Shiro River due to Tropical Storm Anna in January this year. This meant about 129 megawatts has been taken off the grid, causing persistent power outages in the country, which has had power crisis for decades now. At the weekend, a joint committee of parliament toured the site where a temporary dam is under construction to see that it eases the persistent power outages by December this year. From there, our journalist Elikim Sikiti found this report read in our studios by Erita Soko.
At Kapijira Power Station in Chikwawa, the machines are still rolling, only that, as has been the case in the past 7 months, they are not generating any electricity. They will start in December, officials say. Currently, the energy generation company Ijenko is constructing a temporary intake dam to restore power generation at the power station. Construction of the dam comes 8 months after Cyclone Anna-induced floods destroyed the original dam in January this year. The development has almost led to a power crisis in Malawi as the country continues to experience unprecedented power outages that began in January. Ijenko Assistant Public Relations Officer Melvin Njenga assures Malawians that by December this year, one of the country's most important power stations, which provides about 129 megawatts of electricity to the national grid, will be up and running.
One of the major challenges we told them that is leading into the current power crisis is the challenge we have at Kapijira, where we lost our dam due to Cyclone Anna. So we took them there and we showed them the works that have started there. And we are glad to give them hope and also give Malawians hope that with the works that have started, we should be able to complete the works in December, where by December 22, the power station should start generating power again.
Njenga also says the company is working on repairing and maintaining all its power generating machines in order to restore generation.
We also showed the members here the projects that we've implemented. One of them here that we're at Tanzania 4, which we commissioned last year, which is also generating about 19.1 megawatts.
A special committee of parliament instituted to find out and make recommendations on the current power situation in the country has been engaging players in the sector. The committee visited the rehabilitation works at Kapijira Power Station in Chikwawa to appreciate the effort being done to restore full electricity generation at the facility. The fact-finding mission also took the committee to Nkula and Tedzani power stations. Co-chairperson of the Joint Committee of Parliament, Simplex Chitiola Banda, attributes delays in solving the current power crisis to a blame game between players.
I think there is a lot of blame game amongst the players in the power sector in this country. I should mention that we are not only visiting Ijenko. We are visiting Power Marketing Limited, we are visiting ESCOM. But before this, we've already engaged all key stakeholders in the energy sector. We've engaged MELA, we've engaged the PPC, we've engaged the ministry, we've engaged the GENCO, PML and ESCOM. What we are getting from all the players are that there should be some issues within the operational structure of each one of them. So what we wanted is, before we actually come up with a final report, we wanted to pay a field visit to all of them. So what we've seen here, with Ijenko, is that the cyclone Anna and Idai damaged their generation plant and power and at Kapijira, which actually affected the power generation. So I think there are issues within the spectrum of power generation that need to be looked into.
Recently, Minister of Energy Ibrahim Madola held talks with officials from Ejenco and Eskom on the power situation, but nothing has so far changed.
Remember, this is Business Time and I'm William Kumwembe. It is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Malawi Revenue Authority MRA on Monday launched the Taxpayer Service Charter to help bring efficiency in tax payment and management. The charter aims at cultivating and strengthening the confidence that taxpayers have in the tax administration system, according to MRA Board Chairperson Vizenge Kumwenda. He explains in this interview.
The Taxpayers Charter is a milestone of one of the initiatives that we are doing in MRA. We would want MRA to be a professional tax administration authority that does its work professionally, openly, and makes taxpayers pay their taxes willingly. So as part of that process, MRA has come up with this Taxpayers Charter, which spells out the rights of a taxpayer, but also at the same time it also spells out the obligations of the taxpayer. In addition, the Charter also gives important information that the taxpayer needs to know for it to be able to pay its taxes and comply with other obligations. So you see some of the challenges that taxpayers have been facing. It has been due to lack of information. They didn't know their rights, and also, of course, they didn't know their obligations. So this Taxpayers Charter will go a long way to improving the experience that the taxpayers go through when they're paying their taxes. So it's a big milestone which will help taxpayers to comply with their tax obligations, and in the process, MRA will be able to collect more taxes that are required by government to provide for its social services. For example, the Taxpayer Charter states how many days a taxpayer should expect a response from MRA. For example, the Taxpayer Charter spells out how many days it would take for them, for a taxpayer to get a tax identification number. And it also states that that service is free. It also talks about a tax clearance certificate. If a taxpayer wants a tax clearance certificate, it should be issued within a given number of days, as long as the taxpayer complies with all the requirements, submits all the requirements that are required for that tax clearance certificate to be issued. Now, with that, then, on our side as MRA, an officer cannot sit, on these submissions by a taxpayer, because the taxpayer will know that if within a certain number of days he doesn't get his response or her response, then he can take up the matter with he can escalate the matter. So this will help a lot. It will, on our side, our tax officers will know how they're expected to behave, and for those that previously were not behaving properly, were not treating our taxpayers properly, with this Taxpayer Charter, I'm sure those behaviors will disappear.
Now, in other business news, Project Innovation Center has revived its dream of creating 5 million entrepreneurs following a series of manufacturing seminars it has been conducting in major cities of the country. Over the weekend, the organization mobilized manufacturers that oriented over 2,000 potential entrepreneurs in small-scale manufacturing at various products in Blantyre. In an interview, PIC Chief Executive Officer Kondwan Kachamba Ngwira said industrialization remains the sure way of transforming the economy. Chimwemwe Mangazi reports.
The organization mobilized manufacturers that oriented over 2,000 potential entrepreneurs in small-scale manufacturing of various products in Blantyre. Ngwira says industrialization remains the sure way of transforming the economy.
We believe in industrial revolution. So what we are doing is simply to train local entrepreneurs in value addition. We want to compete in trade. Right now, let's accept, if we go and check Malawian groceries, Malawian shops, 99% of all the products are imported. But we are here as a nation. We are here as Malawians. We are here as citizens. What are we doing? Is it government responsibility to manufacture products? No, it is our responsibility. So when we are talking about the Malawi 2063 agenda, there is a part the government prays and there's a part citizens pray.
One of the participants at the Blantyre seminar, Wes Mkaenda, said the seminar was eye-opening, especially in sectors that do not require intensive capital to venture into.
I find this workshop very important. It is very eye-opening. The presenters are very good and the content itself is very good. I find it very important in a sense that it is equipping the participants with knowledge and skills to manufacture various products. In return, this is going to help to boost economy of the country because the individuals that are participating will be able to manufacture stuff and sell, raise income for their own families. Also, I like the approach the leadership is taking, encouraging people to work in teams. So in the end, if people work together in teams, they put their resources together, their investment is going to be large enough, and then even the profits that they're going to make is going to be big enough to make an impact rather than just on individual basis.
Project Innovation Center embarked on an initiative to create 5 million entrepreneurs in the country.
And Malawi Stock Exchange listed Standard Bank last week relaunched its agriculture financing facility through which it seeks to expand and empower commercial farmers. It also aims at enhancing the agriculture sector's input to the national economy. Through the window, the bank is targeting over 10,000 small-scale farmers and large commercial farmers to give them a competitive edge in the agriculture production chain. It is offering loan facilities valued at 5 million kwacha and above at a 15% interest. Standard Bank Head of Business and Commercial Clients, Graham Chiponde, said the financing institution is committed to contributing towards growth of the sector. He explains in this interview.
So we decided to relaunch the agribusiness proposition today just to make sure that the focus of the resources that we're putting into the sector is commensurate with the size of the opportunity that we see, but also the potential that the sector has. As you know, Malawi's economy is predominantly, run by agriculture. It feeds into many other different service sectors, including financial services and other areas. And we felt that really we owed it to the farmers to make sure that the level that we put into promoting different areas of the value chain is really at the same level that the economy benefits from agriculture. So we had several gaps in that we had a very large and expansive opportunity, but we didn't know exactly where to start from in terms of how to cover the opportunity. As such, it meant that our solutions only benefited a very small share of the market and left out that wider population, especially at the lower end of the value chain. So these are typically primary producers such as smallholder farmers and those that were working in cooperatives. And we wanted to have solutions that would be able to cater for farmers right from the input stage when they were planting and growing their crops, but all the way now to when they did value addition, including even offering matchmaking services for exporters and looking at that part of value addition as well. So our strategy right now is really partnership-led. We want to create a platform to be able to cooperate with others that are already working within the sector and leverage upon the expertise that they have, whether it's within capacity building, providing extension services, or other sort of expertise in terms of developing policies and lobbying, in terms of providing a conducive environment to make sure that our efforts in not only providing financial solutions, such as payments, collections, but other solutions as well for the sourcing of inputs, really can be able to go further and be complemented by the efforts of various other actors within the sector. So again, our risk mitigation approach is really one that's partnership-led. So number one, by working with partners that have got experience within these various value chains, be it seed companies, be it training companies that will provide extension services, but also right now to insurance companies that will provide weather-based insurance, but also now to look at what are the other maybe technological solutions that we can use to abate maybe weather risk. So if we talk, for example, about using irrigation to combat the risks of drought or sporadic rainfalls, if we talk about maybe mechanization to enhance labor, but also other mechanisms that we can be able to employ within the field to reduce post-harvest losses. Really, some of those are the key areas that we plan to intervene in to help to reduce and manage risk.
Well, with that interview, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Stay safe and bye for now.